Are you going to go and say hello to the camera? I think you just got booped by a snake. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is India, aka Anacondiac. Now I am joined here by my beautiful little banana ball python, Louie. He is just coming up to a year old and he is really inquisitive. And today's video is going to be something a little bit different. It is inspired by the wonderful pet tuber Emma Lynne Sampson. Now I've been watching Emma's videos for ages and I really love the content she puts out. Over the past couple of months she has done 2 videos reviewing the care guides for PetSmart and Petco. Now here in the UK we don't have either of those shops. Our big chain pet shop is Pets at Home. So today I thought I would review the care guides for Pets at Home. Also ignore the massive bruise on my forehead. I walked into a fridge on Saturday. Yay for being clumsy. Now this is no way a bash on any of the Pets at Home workers or shops. This is just going to be purely me having a look at their care guides and reviewing the information in it. Nothing nasty, I don't want to be hateful or anything like that. It's purely just a response to the information that they are providing. So this morning I went to Pets at Home and I picked up 3 of their care guides. I picked up the ones for leopard geckos, crested geckos and royal pythons like my lovely little Louie here. I love the little spiral he has just on his neck. I think he is just beautiful. I would have really liked to pick up the one for bearded dragons. I've had bearded dragons for years and I do like to think I have their husbandry down to pat, but unfortunately they had run out of the bearded dragon care guides. Maybe there can be a part 2 of this video where I do some of the other care guides that I have missed. So now that you've been introduced to Louie, let's move on to our first care guide, which is the one for royal pythons. Overall, I'm really impressed with this care guide. I've gone through and just skim read it and made a few notes, and they start out by saying how big royal pythons can get. Now they just say that they can get up to 150 centimetres. Now part of me wishes that they'd just gone into a bit more detail. Male royal pythons can grow up to 4 foot. I can't wait till Louie gets that big. Females can get up to 5 foot. Now I wish that they'd specified the size difference, just because if people buy a female they might be surprised that they get a larger snake, whereas if people buy a male expecting to get a full-sized female, there's definitely a difference in size, and I think people, especially beginners, would like to know. The next point that they make, and one that I'm really happy that they included, is the fact that royal pythons should not be housed together and that there can be serious aggression issues if they are. Royal pythons should never be kept together except for breeding, which should only really be done by people who know what they're doing. You can't just throw 2 snakes together in a vivarium and hope that you're going to get healthy babies. It just doesn't work like that. Now then we come to the first bit that does kind of get on my nerves. They don't actually specify a minimum size of vivarium. Now you would think this is a really important basic topic to address, but no, they don't. Now the advice is usually to provide at least a 3 foot vivarium for your royal python. Now if you are using tubs like I do, I would suggest a minimum of 32 litres for adult males and about 40 litres for adult females. They also suggest putting reptile carpet in, and now I am really not a fan of reptile carpet. I feel like it harbours bacteria. I much prefer substrate like aspen or eco earth, which can hold in the humidity and also can be changed very easily. Now I'm actually not sure if you will be able to see this, but they also say that the humidity should be kept at about 40 to 50%. Now I disagree with this. It should be kept at about 50 to 60 on a kind of average day, and then when the snake goes into shed that should increase to 75%. Another really nice point they make is that all of the heating equipment should be hooked up to a thermostat. Temperatures in a ball python setup, just like they specify here quite correctly, is that temperatures should be about 26 on the cool side to 33 on the basking side, and of course at night time temperatures can drop a degree or so lower. Now the next section in the pamphlet is about feeding your ball pythons. They state very correctly that you should never defrost your frozen rodents using a microwave. This can cause the rodents to cook. Food should be defrosted and then warmed up slightly just to make it more attractive to your snake. I like to defrost my rodents using a bowl of warm water, which I will then leave them in for about half an hour. It does say to feed them once a week, and adults can be fed every 10 days. Now one thing that I wish they had included about feeding snakes is that it is very important not to handle your royal python for 48 hours after they've eaten. Now that's to avoid stress and regurgitation of the food. Another nice thing that they say is the water bowl that you give to your snake should be large enough for them to bathe in. And something else which I like on the checklist for the supplies that you'll need for the royal python, they mention having a hygrometer. I hope I'm saying that right. And that's to measure the humidity. So all in all, I think this is a really decent pamphlet, but I would give this a solid like 7 or 8 out of 10. Well done, Pets at Home, this was really, really good. So in my last video I said that my lizards were judging me from across the room as I filmed. I wasn't wrong, have a look at this. This is my view as I film. Sparks is most definitely judging me. So next up we have the Crested Gecko Care Guide. Now I love these little guys, I love their little sticky feet that can run up the glass. Now the first thing that I like is they go into detail about the correct handling procedures for crested geckos. Now you should never be too rough handling cresties, because if you do go about it too rough they can drop their tails as they would do in the wild if attacked by a predator. And unlike leopard geckos and other reptiles, cresties won't grow their tails back at all, so if they lose the tail, it's gone. It's gone forever. Poof, gone. No going back. So right at the beginning of the guide they go into detail about which crested geckos should or should not be kept together. Now as they say very accurately, males should not be kept together because aggression issues can definitely be a problem. So I like to play it safe and I would not house crested geckos together. Now compared to the Royal Python Care Guide, this one does actually specify the minimum enclosure size for crested geckos. They say it should be at least 45 centimetres by 30 by 30, and I would say this should be the definite minimum. They like temperatures between 20 and 26 degrees, which this care guide does go into detail with quite accurately. Actually, I'm very impressed. They also say that temperatures over 28 degrees can be quite harmful to crested geckos. However, in the winter, heat mats should be provided if the temperatures drop below 20 degrees, because you don't want to hurt them with too low temperatures either. Now, they do say that they need quite high humidity compared to other reptiles like leopard geckos. They need about 60 to 80% humidity, which can be achieved by misting. You don't really need to provide lighting for cresties either, especially if they're in a well-lit room. They definitely don't need UV. Now the next section is about what they like to eat. Now they start off by saying that crested geckos are very easy to feed as they're a commercially produced dry food which only needs to be mixed with water or suitable pureed fruit. Now I would recommend either Rapashi or Pangea. You can feed them insects as well, such as small crickets. These should be gut loaded and dusted as you would with any other reptile, but I'm very happy that they do specify about dusting and gut loading. And if you are going to feed your cresties insects, then you should follow the general rule that the insect should be no bigger than the space between the lizard's eyes. And that is actually it for the Crested Gecko Care Guide. I think this is definitely a decent start. Obviously you should always do your research, not just from one particular thing. Look online, look at other pet YouTubers, do as much research as you possibly can before getting your pet. I would say this probably could go into a little bit more detail, but again, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. Little snake kisses. Now the last care guide that I have for you today is the leopard gecko, the family favourite. Now unfortunately, this pamphlet starts off quite badly. It says that they do not need a great deal of space, which in my opinion is completely wrong. An adult needs at least a 2 foot by 1 foot vivarium. Now, one good thing that they say is that adult males definitely need to live apart from each other because they will fight, which is correct. And it also says that females can live with a single male, but that will definitely result in breeding. So if you're not prepared to deal with the resulting eggs, then I would definitely just keep one leopard gecko on its own. Quite correctly, they say that lighting from above is desirable but not essential. Heat mats are a really good source of heat for leopard geckos, but as with any kind of heat emitter, they need to be connected to a thermostat. Now they are desert animals, so you definitely do not want the humidity to be high. Oh, here's another point that I just want to make. They say that, see where I've underlined, just reptile carpet makes a good substrate. Now again, I would disagree. For leopard geckos, a lot of people like to use paper towels just because they are really easy to replace if they get messy, and it's also really easy to spot messes on them as well. And they also say about the importance of putting hides and shelters to reduce stress in your animals, which is all correct. And then they go on to also specify the importance of gut loading and calci dusting. They suggest a diet of crickets, small locusts, waxworms and mealworms. Waxworms should definitely just be fed in moderation. They also say to change the insects you feed your leopard gecko regularly, which I agree, I like to give them a nice varied diet. And another nice point is that they say that you can pop a small dish of calcium powder in the enclosure as well to promote healthy growth and bone development. Clean, fresh water should be available in a water bowl at all times, which is correct. And the last point that they really make is, like with the crested geckos, that handling should be nice and gentle, because if they feel like they are being attacked by a predator, they will shed their tail, although unlike the crested geckos, leopard geckos will regrow their tail, but it won't look the same as the original one, it will be a bit stunted. And then on the other side, the last point that I'd like to make, which is really nice of them to include, it'll say that a healthy leopard gecko will be bright-eyed and have a fat tail, and that is definitely correct. One of the biggest signs of an unhealthy and underweight leopard gecko is a really thin tail, and that shows that they definitely have not been fed enough. And then it just finishes by saying that you should wash your hands thoroughly before and after handling your leopard gecko. So overall, I think this one is about a 6 out of 10. They do need to include a bit more. I really wasn't happy with the statement that they don't need enough space. I feel like it is spreading misinformation to young or inexperienced reptile owners who are new to the hobby. Once again, this was not a bash at Pets at Home. Generally, I was really impressed with how thorough their guides were. I just feel that a bit more information could have been put in or adjusted to make it completely correct. I think Louis wants me to stop filming and just give him all of my undivided attention. And with that being said, I will see you next week for another video. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and remember to subscribe, and when you are subscribed, click the bell notification and you will never miss one of my uploads. Thank you, and I will see you next week.